So we were talking with Todd Hazelwood before we went to the break. We just started touching on your career, mate. Your dad into dirt bikes, that drew you into it. What's the next step, mate? You get into go-karting and then 25 state championships clearly indicated that you were pretty good at it. Where does it start to get to that level?
Yeah, getting towards that pointy end of my junior career, we're looking for that next step. I was really fortunate enough to be part of a scholarship program, which then helped me elevate from go-karting, obviously racing on little circuits, to then the big scene, racing on a proper circuit. Got my first shot in a Formula Ford. I was just turned 15 years old, did a test day at Winton Raceway, and off the back of that, got a new opportunity off the back of that, racing in the Victorian State Championships in Formula Ford. And geez, when was that? 2012. Looking back at it all, we got 4th out of 40 cars in our first year. And we were trying to really push while I was young to use that to my advantage, because obviously in motorsport it's such a competitive industry at the time, and moved up into the Formula 3 ranks. So essentially Formula 3 is the fastest open wheel category that you could race here in Australia, we were pushing for the ambition to go overseas at that time, but being a kid from Adelaide, we didn't have a lot of funding on our side, and we had to be a bit realistic about what that next step was going to be. And actually, it was part of a unique opportunity where I got to be part of a reality TV show, which was designed around finding the next supercar star. And it was out of 12 contestants.
You won that.
Yeah, and then went on to win the show. So that was my first, in that show, was my first time I ever got to drive a supercar. And basically, it was whoever did the fastest lap in a supercar with a bunch of young hotshots. And won the show, got my first testing contract with Ford Performance Racing, which was the factory Ford team. So being a bit of a one-eyed Ford supporter as a kid, it was a bit of a dream come true. But that was only sort of step one. That was did the test day, and that was well and good, but they didn't have an opportunity for me in the team. So then got given Matt Stone's phone number. So called him up at the end of 2013, flew up to Queensland, and we shook hands on an agreement. And 2022, I'm still here today.
Quickly, mate, because I know everyone wants to get a question in here, but I just want to take you back to a minute. You're in the Formula 4s at 15. How fast are you going at that phase, do you reckon?
Formula Fords is sort of top speed of 240, 250, I think. And in the open wheel is that the Formula 3 cars are actually faster lap time than a supercar, because they got high downforce, grippy tyre, obviously perfect centre of gravity and things like that. So they were a proper race car.
So the reason for us that, it hasn't got a driver's licence yet.
Yeah, that's true.
Exactly.
It's unbelievable that you can be doing that, without a licence. It blows me away when I hear those stories. You go, can't go on the road, put me on the track, let me go nearly 300 k's. You go, it's just amazing.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes.
What about the scholarship? That's interesting. Was it a school scholarship? How did that sort of come about?
Look, to be honest, there was no support from schools, and I actually got a lot of negativity from school pursuing a career in motorsport, which was frustrating at the time. But I didn't let that get me down.
No,
don't put it that way. But it was actually what was called the Fujitsu Cool Driver program. So that were basically handpicking young kids in karting, trying to help them become that next step. So I don't know if you guys are aware of a name, Scott McLaughlin. He's now currently racing over in IndyCar. So he was running in the Dunlop Super 2 series at the time, looking to progress in the main series supercars, and they're looking for the next Scott McLaughlin. So that's when they touted myself and a few other drivers to help progress. And
Who gives you the negative about pursuing a career in motorsport from school? What school are you talking about?
I actually come from Charles Campbell Secondary School, so just down the road here in Campbelltown. It was just a few teachers, and obviously motorsport in particular, being away so many weekends of the year. So I was doing all my homework while I was away, travelling away, but there was a few teachers that said maybe you should look at
Were you doing it?
Focusing on school more and focus on a real career. But
Did you get the one, mate?
I had to push them and correct them a bit.
Were you really doing it? Were you doing your homework?
I was, definitely.
Surely you got the one, you'll never make a living out of motorsport. You need to focus on your schoolwork. You'll never make a living out of it.
Exactly. There's plenty of haters along the way.
You all got that, mate. You'll never make a living playing football. You'll never make a living playing
Sport's not going to be any good for you.
Sport really good. Do you like to see those teachers now, don't you?
Yeah.
Hey, mate, tell us about the track coming up. You get much time to prepare now for the race coming up on the 29th to the 31st?
It's such a unique thing in supercars. We don't get time to practice. We only get 2 test days for the whole season, and then we have 2 half-hour practice sessions before we go straight into qualifying on Saturday at the Bend this weekend. So in our sport, it's a very unique thing where we're trying to contain the costs and everything like that. So we get limited by how many tyres we get to use, how many sets of brakes throughout the whole year. So it's a very unique scenario. So that's where a lot of pre-event preparation comes into play. So obviously a lot of mental imagery, starting the video footage from previous events and other drivers and things like that, trying to relay as much information as possible so when we jump in the car, we're ready to rock and roll.
So you guys would rely so much on your team. If you've only got 2 practice sessions on the Saturday, you're jumping in the car. You're not underneath the car. You would be relying heavily on your team to give you a car that's going to be competitive.
Correct. Yeah, we've got two engineers working on my car, and then we've got another 4 mechanics that are working full time, just dedicated to my race car. So we've got 2 cars within our stable. So obviously you multiply that by 2. It's a big program, and as you said, although there's a lot of spotlight on the driver, we're heavily reliant on those guys doing the job that they do. They prepare the cars 2.5 weeks, working day and night on the race car to ensure when we roll out, we're on the money.
And especially that poor guy that changes the tyre. Everyone seems to be, he's on the clock.
Exactly. People sometimes criticise our crew and go, "Oh, it's a slow pit stop." So you go out and you try and change tyres in 2.5 seconds and see how it's like. But
that's true.
It's
you know, at the Olympic Games or the AFL level, they'll come in and you've almost got that time chart. So let's say, for instance, you're on the track at this time. This is when you're eating. This is when you're. What's the time frame like for you leading into actually getting into the car on the track?
It's very full on, and particularly this week for me personally, being a South Aussie, I've got a lot of media commitments and things like that, and sponsors that obviously want to absorb a lot of your time. So the actual racing element of it is a very small part of, I suppose, my day-to-day life. It's probably 5% of it, to be fair.
Take us through a race day. Getting into the car on the track, what leads into that? Day.
So from a general point of view, obviously getting up nice and early, we get to the track. We generally have a team meeting before the day kicks off. So it's basically an engineering plan running through the items that we've changed or we're prepared or we're going to test for, particularly for practice, and then what those test items are and what we're hoping the outcomes will be, and then having a plan B, plan C. So you're sort of making room to be flexible on the fly. And then early on in the morning, we might have a couple of signing sessions, so fan interaction, which is a big part of our sport. We generally have a lot of our sponsors that will attend our events as well, so we try to spend, say, half an hour with them in the pits. We'll give them a guided tour throughout our facility. And then we've got sponsors up in corporate, so we'll go see them as well. And then obviously, for this Saturday in particular, we've got 2 practice sessions, a qualifying and a race, all compacted in one day. So trying to fit in all those commitments throughout the day. Plus, obviously, trying to manage your own intake and preparation. There's a lot that's going on.
And preparation's going to be tough because now you've forgotten about the media aspect just for you because you're at home. And how are you going to balance that? I mean, that's going to be a fine line, really.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You certainly learn to how you manage your own time. I've been fortunate enough now. I've been a full-time series driver now for 5 years, and when I did my first year, Adelaide 500 was the first round of the year. I was a rookie, just come off the back of winning the Dunlop Super 2 Championship, and before I even got to the race week, I was just mentally spent. So a lot of lessons learned, I suppose, over the years of how you manage yourself personally to ensure that obviously the commitments that we need to do, we always need to do them. You can't push them aside. That's a big part of our job.
Yeah, and you guys do it really well too.
So you certainly just learn how to manage it all, I guess.
How many mates do you get when you come back to Adelaide? Hey, any chance I can get you a ticket to
exactly.
It's
amazing who comes out here. Trust me.
I'd like to come down and see you training session.
How many mates have a crack at you about a hot lap? That's what because I'm a big fan of I did a couple with Jim Richards. And they're the most amazing thing I've done. And I really mean that.
Done a couple of great.
If you ever get a chance to do one, you would take clients out or you would take someone out for a bit of a burn?
100%, yeah. And I encourage it, as you said, whether it's just even we did a hot laps the other day at Sandown Raceway, just in a road-going Corvette, and just seeing the reaction of their face. They expected it just to be a road car, thinking, oh, how fast can a road car be? And they were speechless and blown away and laughing just in...
It's a 2 pair of pants.
Just getting a new appreciation for what it's like behind the wheel, being thrown around in a race car.
Hey, Todd, we're wrapped that you're here, mate. Really appreciate your time. You're a busy man, mate. Hope it's an absolute belter for you on the weekend.
We're on your
run.
best.
We're with you, mate. Todd Hazelwood was our special guest.